Let me now talk about the employee rights. And later on, I will indeed talk about the employer rights. Now, these are the rights that are derived, from the Labor Relations Act. To be advised of any investigation, that is, if you are being investigated as an employee, and for certain allegations of misdemeanors, you are supposed to be informed. You are not supposed to hear this, through the grapevine, that you are being investigated and yet you do not know anything about it. You, in fact, should be the first person to know, the results of which may be used, at an inquiry, obviously. You also have, as an employee, the right to be heard. Your side of the story has got to be heard. And you have a right to a fair hearing. There has to be a hearing. And that hearing must be fair. It really must indeed be fair. You also have access to the interpreter. Remember, in this beautiful country of ours, South Africa, there are 11 official languages. And if for some reason or other you are not able to express yourself properly in English, then of course, demand that, you speak in your own mother tongue. And it will be the responsibility of the employer to ensure that an interpreter is provided. Assistance, representation by trade union or co-employee. Now, a number of employees sometimes take this for granted, particularly when they have to appear in a hearing. They tend to say that I'm going to represent myself. I'm capable enough, to represent myself. Yes, you may indeed be capable enough, to represent yourself. But it is always better to get someone to represent you. It is always better, if you're a member of a union, to get a union member to represent you. Or if you are not a member of a union, get a co-employee to represent you. And that is important. Now, to be present at the hearing, you mustn't say that, these people are charging me for something that I have not done. I don't know anything about this and that and that, and therefore I am not going to the hearing. The first sitting, yes, it is likely to be postponed. The second, it's likely to be postponed. But from the third hearing onwards, whoever is presiding over that particular matter will most definitely decide that the hearing is going ahead, with or without you being present. And remember, if you are not present, you will not be able to rebut whatever allegations that are leveled against you. And if you are present at a hearing, and there are certain allegations that are being leveled at you, you would have the right to immediately rebut, those allegations. So please note that. It's very crucial. To call witnesses during a hearing, yes, you have that right, exercise it. If there are witnesses that you want to call in, by all means, call them in to come and testify on your behalf. You also have the right to cross-examine witnesses. When witnesses do come in, yes, you have the right to cross-examine them. Remember, it's your life, it's your livelihood, you know? And if you don't do all these things and you end up being fired, you know, sometimes it may be very difficult for you to find another job, particularly now when things are so tough, very difficult. The rate of unemployment in this country of ours is very high, very, very, very high now. I mean, particularly with, you know, the COVID pandemic. You know, there are lots of people that are losing their jobs. You know, they just don't know, you know, whether or not they'll be able to get other jobs, you know, at a later stage. So protect that which you have. Access to any documents produced in evidence. If there are documents that are produced, you know, as evidence, make sure that you access them and you go through those particular documents and prepare thoroughly. To appeal against the finding or the sanction, you have the right, I mean, to actually appeal. Exercise that right. I mean, it's in the legislation. Now, whatever reason that the presiding officer comes up with, those reasons must be in writing, and you must be given a copy. You must be given a copy of that particular document. You can plead mitigating circumstances. Plead mitigating circumstances. It's crucial. You can plead to the presiding officer that, look, you know, you've got about 6 kids and you probably have got 4 wives, you know, and that if you're fired, all those people will definitely starve because there won't be any source of income, right? Plead those mitigating circumstances. You never know. The presiding officer may indeed take all that into consideration. Right, as indicated earlier, now we talk about the employer rights. It is your right as an employer to discipline. Please bear that in mind. Now, you cannot outsource discipline. Yes, you may hire people to assist you in disciplining your employees. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. You are the employer. I know there are certain employers that are scared of disciplining their employees. And they are also scared of suspending them. Now, some employers obviously, you know, would come up with scare tactics. They would say to their managers, you dare discipline me. You dare suspend me. I know where you stay. I know your kids. I know your wife. Now, if you go ahead and discipline me, if you go ahead and suspend me, you will see what happens. In some cases, I mean, these threats are real. But in some instances, these are just scare tactics. But you know better, you know your employees much better than any other person. You've got to weigh that particular situation yourself. But at the end of the day, you've got a business to run. You really have got a business to run. You've got a department to run. Now imagine a situation where there's no discipline. It's a laissez-faire kind of an atmosphere. No discipline at all. What kind of a business would you be running? What kind of a department would you be running? So these are crucial issues that you really need to take into consideration. You need to also appoint a chair, at the hearing. And sometimes, some employers are democratic enough and they would solicit, the assistance of the employees or the unions, so that at the end of the day, they come up, with a chair that both parties would agree to. And that is fine. As long as it works, for both parties. But bear in mind that at the end of the day, the buck stops with the employer, you, the employer. You have to lead evidence during the hearing. Yes, you definitely have to lead evidence. You want this hearing to take place, so lead the evidence. Call witnesses during a hearing. Call them. Cross-examine them. It's your right to do so. Inasmuch as the employee would argue mitigating circumstances, you have the right to argue aggravating circumstances. Remember, the employee would say, I have 6 kids and I've got 4 wives. You could counter argue and say, look, I've got nothing to do with your 6 kids. I've got nothing to do with your 4 wives. I basically have only 1 wife and I'm battling to survive with only 1 wife. And you have 4. But those are the arguments that could be posited by you as an employer. It's your right. It's your right. You also need to access to documents that are produced in evidence so that you go through them thoroughly and make sure that you prepare. Make sure that you prepare. You must never ever take the unions for granted, because most of them are highly knowledgeable about labor law. So make sure that you prepare and prepare thoroughly.